Hi Anti-Society, welcome back to the Anti-Social Planet, and today we are finally checking out Dreamcatcher's versus VillainS album. I'm super excited about this because I have had OOTD stuck in my head since I heard it. Like, it just kind of keeps worming its way in there, and I've heard from fans that this album, they're trying out some new things in their sound, which to the point where it seems to be a little bit polarizing, but that just makes me more excited to check out the album to see what kind of sounds they're going to be playing around with. So I'm just super excited to get into this comeback and see what they've got for me. So let's get into the intro. Okay. Intros, always an exciting time. They always do something that intrigues me about what the sound of the album's gonna be. That's a super robotic sounding voice. I think it's the first time, like, I noticed that they had This My Fashion, which I'm like, oh, that's the line from OOTD. But I think this is the first time I've heard them put a sample of the actual song into the intro, at least like the lyrics. There may have been like musical motifs that transition into the lead single, but this is the first time I'm hearing them actually put in a vocal from it, which again, I haven't heard every Dreamcatcher album yet, so that this may not actually be the first time, but it's super interesting. And it's like a very robotic sounding voice, which fits with this almost like AI feeling that the OOTD music video had. The glitching also makes me think of the MV. Ooh, that reverb. Ooh, that bass though. Hang on a dang second. Okay, the bass, this like filter on some kind of like synthesized bass that's going into it. It's super like electronic, but almost to a like, I want to say like cyberpunk kind of way, which I've seen like a little bit of. They did it a little bit in Alone in the City, but this is like way more into it. Like, it has like a grittiness to it that I felt like I haven't heard yet from them. The synth almost sounds like alarms. It's ominous. Ooh, okay, ominous feels like it fits with VillainS. Love that shift there. It's like a little bit funky too. I think I'm gonna like this album. I love that wind down. Oh, the way it just like glitches out at the end. Interesting. Like it felt very like guitar heavy, but like there's a ton of like filters and things happening on it and synths. It's very like bass heavy, like it feels like kind of grungy and grounded. I think I'm gonna love this album. I'm predicting it now. I always enjoy their albums, but I think that this one's gonna hit a little bit different. I don't think I'm ready. Okay, we're starting off with Rising. So we had This My Fashion, OOTD, and now Rising. And I've had discussions with people where it feels a little bit like they're kind of playing off of this idea of being like playing off the idea of critiquing the like music industry by being like an exaggeration of all of the different elements that you kind of think of when you think of like generic kind of K-pop group, and with the whole like AI thing of almost like synthesizing that, like perfecting that to the point of it being completely artificial. So I feel like getting into these songs, maybe we're playing some more off of that idea. Again, VillainS, so I'm expecting there to be this like sinister undertone to it. I'm upset that we have two people with lip rings in this. We have Jiu and Gayan. Also, I don't know why Handong has to look at me like that, but I'm not allowed. I'm not even going to mention the others because I'm mad at all of them, but let's see what Rising has for us. Ooh. The guitar with the synth? Oh, okay. I love this like darker tone that the whole song has, but also Handong's voice there. Okay, okay, this is what we're doing. This is what we're going for. All right, okay. Like 10 steps. Oh, like the vocal melodies on this are so interesting. Like they just have this like slightly off kilter, but also enticing sound to them. Like there's almost this like snake charmer sound to it. I love that it just has this like darker, deeper tone to their voices. Loved Sua's little vibrato there. I know I'm freaking out and I keep pausing. I'm sorry. I'm already loving this and we're 20 seconds in. Ooh. Oh, that slide down. Okay, this sound, like what they're doing with their voices, like she in there with like how deep and dark her voice was. You know what this makes me think of? Like the melodies. It reminds me a lot of Hide from L'Arc-en-Ciel, which is a Japanese rock band. I'm getting major vibes. I'm getting major Hide vibes, which is not a bad thing whatsoever because he's one of my favorite singers. The way that she just transitioned from like that really deep tone all the way up and then did that like slide down. Oh no. Oh no. I went into this and people were like, yeah, we really love this comeback, or people were kind of on the fence about it. No one warned me that this might be something I immediately fall in love with. Oh dear. No, 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 no. The way that it opened up with their vocals, and I love getting Gio on that part because she has such a brighter tone naturally that it just opens up the energy of the song, but there's all these still darker tones in the production, and they keep doing these like shifts downwards into their range to get these really rich dark tones that just keep this like unnerving feeling to the whole song. It almost feels like from like the lyrics and stuff, it almost feels like there's like this perseverance to the lyrics. And again, people have talked a little bit about this being a bit of like a critique on the music industry. So there may be some stuff in the lyrics where they're putting in things to play off of that idea, like with OOTD, where they had kind of these very superficial, materialistic things in the lyrics that were kind of in contrast to some of the other lyrics they had in the song that was like playing off that idea of like, let me name this list of like material things that say I'm successful, even though that's not actually how I measure the success. So there's this weird like polarity to the lyrics, but to me it almost feels like making a deal with the devil. Like it feels like making a deal with this thing that you know that's kind of sinister and that maybe you shouldn't do, and there's like some danger to it, but making the deal anyway because it will result in like this rising up of power or perseverance. I don't know. I have been totally distracted by like the vocal tones and the instrumentation and just like loving sonically what's happening with this song that I need to pay more attention to the lyrics. I'm like panicking a little bit because this song's really good. Ooh. No, man. Not today. Not on this track. Not with this production. I find it really interesting that they're saying rising, like that's the title of the song, and there's like things in the lyrical content that are about like rising above, like where the sun is shining and all of that. Like they talked about like somewhere where I can breathe in the lyrics, I think. But we have all of these melodies that are like swinging downwards, like they're either sliding down into that lower register or they're very like almost like a staccato kind of way of like shifting into that lower range. So we have all these like dark, deeper, lower tones in this song about rising. So that's like the polarity. Like it feels like they know, they have like this confidence that they're going to rise above what's happening, but it almost feels like they're to do it, they're sacrificing something. Even though they're talking about how it's not going to like break them, it does feel like there's some kind of sacrifice before the rising happens. I'm not ready for Dami. Like I love that stutter on the guitars. Ooh, her voice there, interesting, not in as dark of a tone, which given that Dami has like a naturally lower register most of the time when she's rapping, that's an interesting choice that it's like a little bit higher than I'm used to, but it has this robotic feeling again, where they're like putting those elements in. I feel like the melodies before this feel very like organic because there's so much motion in them, that having that shift into Dami's part that feels more robotic, and even having like the filter on her voice there. I'm probably reading like too deep into this, but I don't have any answers for the concept that's happening yet, so I'm going to come up with as many theories as I want because there are no answers yet. Little playful cries in her voice though. Ooh, okay, like Gahyun had a very like robotic sound of her voice too, and then having this like shouting vocal from Jian is like a really good contrast of those energies, right? Because robotic is very unfeeling and there feels this detachment, and then to have this like yelling vocal in contrast, it has like a ton of emotion behind it, almost like a breaking point. That's interesting. Even the lyrics here of like there's no time machine, again it feels like there's some like they're moving forward and they're rising above and they're having like I don't know, success or notoriety, whatever it may be, but it feels like there's this regret, like something was lost that they're regretful about because they can't go back. So they're like, okay, I'm just gonna keep moving forward. I'm just gonna keep rising above all this and keep going because I can't do anything about what I did in the past. The past is behind me, so I'm just gonna keep going. There has this weird like darkness to it though. I was thinking with something rising might be more on the inspirational side. It might feel more of this like victory to it, where like this doesn't feel like a victory. This feels like a kind of trudging through because there's no alternative. Like you just have to keep going. Hanlang's voice on this, that cry that she put into it, this song's gonna be the death of me. I don't know what it is, but like, dang. Oh, sorry, the little drum fill. I'm trying to pay attention to some of the production stuff because it is like kind of grungy and it all kind of comes together a little bit. Like it's a little, I feel like it's a little bit intentionally muddy because it's supposed to have this darkness to it. But there's like a nice little drum fill there. I mean, like the guitar work on this. Love how she also had this little bit of a slide upwards in some of her vocals too. Dang, I'm gonna play this song a lot. I thought that the last comeback, I was like obsessed with it. The last couple of comebacks I've been obsessed with them, and I'm like, do we get better? Maybe we do. Oh, there were 2 drum fills. Oh, I love her tone there. Like it has like this lazy, like laid back sound to it, but it has the, again, this sinister side to it of like with the lyrical content is a lot more sinister than I would have expected. Yeah, like the beauty is dangerous. Interesting. Because I feel like that does fit with this idea of like, I don't know, artificial perfection. That's kind of what I'm getting from OOTD, which is like the only FA that I have to like pull anything from, but it does have this feeling of like having something be so perfect because it's artificial, it's fake. It's this AI version of it that it takes away all of the kind of heart of it, right? Like even like real life is fabulous. Like I had real life, but we're talking about like fabulous feels performative, right? Like fabulous is what you do when something is, you know, very like showbiz. There's like glamour to it as opposed to what real life actually is, right? Like real life isn't actually fabulous. There are rarely moments where you are that glammed up and put together and things have that kind of feeling to them. So even when they're talking about real life, there is this performative showmanship to it as opposed to genuine, very human expression. And even her voice being like very like monotone almost, like it feels very like, again, like has like this lazy feeling to it. You've lost all of the like emotional resonance to these lyrics with her vocal performance. God, I love this song. The guitars are great on this part too. Oh, I love Dami's little vibrato there. Oh, great transition back into the chorus because that note from Sua just like blends in to the vocal that we're getting from Jiu. Oh, I'm like exhausted because of this song. I'm like panicking a little bit because there are like 2 more songs on this album. And this is what we're doing? I'm overwhelmed too. Like it blends so well. Go off, Sua. Oh, the way their voices blended there. Gorgeous. Like layers. Oh, I'm sorry. I interrupted Shion, but her little ad lib there gave me shivers, and it took a while for my brain to register. There's so much happening, my brain's like lagging a little bit. But I love the layers of vocals. There's almost like a higher part of it. Like there's like not necessarily like harmonies, but it's just like at a higher register. My brain can't right now. It's buffering, and you're just gonna have to give me a second. It sounds on this side in the mixing. Ooh, Shion. I'm exhausted after that. Yeah, no, my brain's gonna need a second. My brain's gonna need a moment to process what that song is, because no one warned me. No one warned me that that song was gonna be like that. I feel so many things. Their performances, fantastic. So many like ranges of things, not just like their actual vocal range where you have like this really like dark, deeper tones and then the higher tones, but we also had some great dynamics with the character of their voices, playing around with like more monotone sounds or even like having like drag in their voices, as opposed to having far more like emotive and energetic sounds to their voices, like just really playing around with both of those things. Again, ton of polarity in this album of just what they're trying to communicate and the sounds that they're playing with. But this is going on a playlist somewhere. I'll probably just end up listening to the whole album front to back. Honestly, I'm just gonna end up listening to this whole album repeat, and I haven't even heard the last two songs, but I just feel like that's what's gonna happen. But we have another song to get to. Okay, I know that there's a dance video for this, but it doesn't have captions on it. So we're gonna do the lyric video, and I promise I'll come back and do the dance video. Okay? Good. Shatter scares me. This whole album scares me, which I guess it should because it's called VillainS. But there's something about the sound that they're doing that is just getting to me. So, okay, let's do this one. I feel like I'm about to be lulled into a false sense of security. Oh, that like break in her voice. Okay, one, the sound of this is very like ambient, which is very different sonically than what we've gotten from the other two songs, but I feel like this one has more emotion behind it. I feel like it's playing off of the idea that I said before with Rising, where it feels like making a deal with the devil. It feels like there was some kind of sacrifice for the rising that they were experiencing, and them having regrets about whatever that sacrifice was, and needing, like, knowing that they can't go back to change it, so just needing that momentum forward because they've already made the sacrifice, so they might as well make it worth it, right? Whereas this song feels like they're actually realizing it, like, give me back my paradise, you know, it like, give me my liberty back. Like, it feels like they understand that by sacrificing whatever it is they sacrificed and committing to that sacrifice, they've trapped themselves. Though, like, the way that Yeon said the like break me up and like her voice broke in it, gorgeously done, like beautiful narrative storytelling there, and like the way that they're just lightening up their voices and making themselves sound far more vulnerable, especially with this more subdued ambient production that's happening, just like fits with it. But it also has this like, it still has this like digital environment feeling to it that's really fascinating. Like, the production on this, the production team are doing some really cool things of just like creating this atmosphere, because it almost sounds like there's like alarm sounds kind of like in the intro, but it's like more like subdued, and it almost sounds like there's like hardware too, but without it like shifting into kind of like the industrial sounds that I've heard in some of their previous music. I don't really know how to put my finger on it, but I would love to see like the back end of this track and just see like the different layers and synths and things that they put in it, because I've only heard part of it and my ears are just like picking out all these little details. breathy vocals too. Oh, beautiful. Oh no, we shifted! Handong on this album. I don't know why she needs to come for me, but there's something about her. But the like kiss me darling part like started off very, again, it has like this like snake charmer feeling to it, but also I feel like it's fitting more into that like performative thing that that's been coming up before, right? It feels like I don't know, because a kiss doesn't mean somebody loves you. You know what I mean? Like a kiss can be a very performative thing, and it doesn't actually have to mean that there's any kind of actual attachment or affection behind that action. It's just an action, right? As opposed to actually knowing that someone cares about you. You can get a kiss from someone and have it just be a performative thing that doesn't have any actual emotion behind it. So it feels like that, of like it's like be part of the performance with me. Like if we all pretend, then maybe it will like protect me. I don't know, but we're shifting dramatically sonically and I'm just like ugh. Sua ma'am, I'm gonna need you to not sound like that. Thank you very much. This is so different, like a dramatic shift. And this feels a little bit more industrial. Again, we have that very like heavy bass sounds in it. And we've lost the emotion from their voices, right? We've gone back to this like very empathetic sound that they've been kind of shifting back and forth with. So fascinating. I'm fascinated. It does remind me a little bit of another song from another group, and I'm not going to say it because I don't want people to get weird. I know that they can be, and we're not here to talk about another group. We're here to talk about Dreamcatcher. But it does make me feel like they're kind of, again, playing off of that idea of let's talk about what the music industry has become and what that means for like more contemporary performers, because the songs that I'm thinking are a little bit older. So it makes me think that they're kind of shifting between those two identities of like who they really are as Dreamcatcher and then like the facade or like the perfection, the artificial image that maybe they feel pressured to portray or that other people critique them for not fulfilling, right? Because I know that there are a lot of kind of standards and rules to being a K-pop group, and I know that Dreamcatcher in and of itself, just because of the kinds of like the kind of music that they pick sonically, doesn't fit into that image of like a regular K-pop group, especially a girl K-pop group. So their existence in and of itself is going against the grain of what is popular and what is kind of industry standard. So it feels like they're kind of internalizing that, I don't know, criticism or critiques or like resistance to their sound and who they are, and like saying, okay, what if we did, right? It's like, what if we did give into this, all these opinions and criticisms, and what would that sound like, and who would that make us, and how would that make us feel? And it's almost like this big like thought experiment of that, of them kind of alternating between these like alter egos of fitting into those criticisms versus who they actually are and who they want to be as performers. It's so interesting sonically though. Ooh, I love that drag that we have in their voices. But again, like the like bewitching me. I was saying like snake charmer, right? It feels like they're kind of being coaxed into this. Again, you know, like making a deal and not really thinking of the consequences of it. It almost makes me feel like, if I'm thinking of like the story of Dreamcatcher, almost like they're saying, would it be easier to give in to those criticisms maybe? Like, would it be easier to just be this artificial industry standard group that everybody kind of aims for from a professional side of things? Would it be easier to just do that as opposed to having to deal with all of the struggle that comes along with re-debuting, having a different sound, going with a different kind of concept, coming from a smaller like label? Is that journey and that struggle really what I want to go through when I could take the easy path? And again, I don't think that that's like them actually contemplating that. I think it's just them, again, a big thought experiment of like, let's just go through the what ifs. Let's visualize, let's imagine, and think of all the different angles of that concept. Even though like magic towards the extravagance, like, would it be better to have gone with like, you know, one of the bigger labels, done a more traditional pop sound, you know, taken the path that had way less struggle and darkness behind it? But would that have been better? It might have been easier, but would it have been better? And would I have ended up in the place that I wanted to be in? It's so like, I love this like shifting back and forth, this kind of two-facedness to all of the songs that's happening. Oof, beautiful. Even like they're like, all my senses despair, we had them saying like turning into a stone, right? I think also it could be the struggle of not just like giving into criticisms and being the person that everyone, at least like the very loud negative voices maybe telling them that they should be. It could also be like, would it be better if I just turned off from the situation? Because I'm sure they've had to deal with a lot of crap. You know, would it be better for me to just detach from everything that's happening and to just, again, be this very like artificial, robotic, perfect being that doesn't have any of the grunginess, any of the grit, any of the emotional resonance? Would it be better for me to not be as open to what I'm feeling and just give in to the artificial? Would that have been better? If I'd been less genuine to who I am, would it have been easier? It's a really interesting idea, especially with this using like AI and stuff kind of mixed into it. The harmonies on this album though, the way that their voices are blending, beautiful, gorgeous. I don't know why that's where they're flexing on this album, but dang. Diane, I'm gonna need you not to sound like that either. But I also, I'm talking about like stones and stuff. It's almost like, you know, like throwing stones. The phrase throwing stones means to like throw negativity and throw critique at someone. So it's almost like they're saying, if I turn off my feelings, if I become less genuine, if I close myself off, then I can take this like barrage of stones and critiques and negativity coming my way. Because I also think I talked about in, I think my OOTD reaction, maybe, where I talked about how it feels like they've gone through this big wave of success with the previous set of albums, with the Apocalypse story is kind of where they really hit their stride and hit their popularity, and we get like first wins and all of this stuff for them, which is fantastic. But with that comes a lot of attention that's not necessarily from people who like and adore you or can even be respectful to you. And I'm sure that it's not just from general public, but it could also be within the industry of like, who are these people coming in here thinking that they can win awards and perform at our shows from this like record label we've never heard of? You know, not everyone in the industry is very nice, and I'm sure that they've had some lovely interactions with people in the industry, but there's also probably some pushback, especially since they're doing a rock sound, which has a ton of pushback in South Korean music in general. So I'm sure that they've had to deal with a lot. And it almost feels like they're saying, okay, if I can't be the same open person that I was before. And it's because of with all of the success where I left myself open like I did before the success. When you're dealing with less attention, I felt like I could just do it the same way and it would be fine, but actually it isn't, because I'm leaving myself open to all of the negativity as well. And, you know, with this rise, there's also, I don't really know how to word it. I don't know if I'm fully finishing my thought, but like with this rise, there's also farther to fall, you know, and you can kind of see the potential fall. And also the more people want to knock you down because they're not rising with you. So they want you to be back down where they are. So it can be a lot to deal with. And I'm sure that for them, it sounds like it's been a bit of a roller coaster last couple of years for them, with their success just getting like skyrocketing and them doing a bunch of meeting a bunch of these milestones in their career. So I'm sure that I'm sure there's a reason that in these pictures they're kind of beat up and are talking about how they kind of want to detach from everything. I don't know if I finished my thought. I hope I did. I feel bad for my editor who's gonna have to try and figure out that ramble. Like a wind up happening to production. Oh, it's so interesting, like the almost like not like orchestral but like choir sound there. Ad-libs are beautiful. Wait. That ended so quickly. That ended so abruptly, and it's like cut off, right? It's like cut off before anything can happen almost. And there's almost like this choir sound, which almost feels like blending into the collective, like letting the collective voice be your voice. I feel like I have so many thoughts about this song, and I'm not sure if any of them are completely coming together into a full idea, but it does feel like this one there's more of a struggle than in the previous songs between those two identities, right? Like I was saying, like this very like artificial polished identity and who Dreamcatcher actually is, which is like the genuine people behind the group. And it feels far more like they're shifting between those two things of like who they really are as people and who they want to represent as performers, and then who they feel like they should be, or the person that people keep telling them that they should be, and them kind of struggling between those two sides. Again, like this thought experiment of like, what would it mean to fit the mold the way that people say that they want me to? But the trouble is that everyone kind of has a different idea of who they want you to be. So it feels like doomed to fail, but really interesting song. I feel like this is going to be one of the ones that I have to like think on for a bit because my head feels fuzzy from all of it now. All right, last song, and I feel like this is going to be a turning point. I feel like we had them with like fitting fully into like this artificial side with like OOTD, and then with Rising, it felt like they were like kind of regretting their decision but still going, and then Shatter was really this struggle of like flipping between those two sides of themselves. And I feel like this might be the transition maybe out of VillainS. There's been some debate that I've been talking to people about of whether or not the next part is going to be like Heroes or something around that nature, where it's going to be far more the like genuine side, like optimistic side of Dreamcatcher, of like who they really want to be, what they want Dreamcatcher to represent. So maybe we're shifting that a little bit. I don't know. This album has taken me out.
Don't cry, tomorrow will be bright because we are young, young, young. Tonight, 뒤돌아보지 마 because we are young, young, young.
Their voices. Guitar coming in too, though.
쉽지만은 않을 걸 알아요. 그렇지만
Okay, before we transition, their voices on this, beautiful. It does feel like we're shifting, but maybe we'll shift again because we did in the last song. But it feels very much this like, it's okay to have regrets. It's okay to have made mistakes. It's kind of the feeling I'm getting of we're allowed to try things and make mistakes and have regrets and be a little bit lost for a little while because we're young and we can figure it out. We can try again. We can completely shift to the direction that we're in, which Dreamcatcher knows better than anybody because they re-debuted. They know what it means to completely shift what you're doing as someone who is a creator. So I feel like it might get me my feelings though. We're winding up to something in the production.
쉽지만은 않을 걸 알아요. 그렇지만 곁에 있다는 걸 알아줘요. I know you're mine. Yeah.
Gorgeous vocals.
나가는 길을 밝히게 like a street light.
Oh, the vocal right in there. Sua sounds great on this album. Sorry, I know we're about to drop, but I'm like, this feels like a very like sentimental song, and then I feel like we're gonna have like some massive drop of some kind. I love the vocal melody on this part, the like don't cry part. There's just something about it that has kind of this dreamy but like optimistic feeling to it. I almost feel like maybe that's why we're about to have this like drop, and it has this more like fun, almost like dubstep kind of feeling to it, because that does have kind of this like youthful feeling to it, like carefree feeling to it of just like letting yourself go and dance and not think about it all too much. Like it almost feels like that. It feels like they're like, all of this is overwhelming. I have regrets. I'm confused about what I even want in comparison to what other people want me to want and all of that, that they're like, I don't have to figure it out right now. And maybe this is just about putting it off, right? Like it's like tomorrow will be bright. Like tomorrow will be better. For right now, I just want to be young and carefree and like not think about it too much. Wow, that's a drop. I don't think I've ever heard something like that in a Dreamcatcher song. This definitely feels like a party song. Okay. One, is there a choreo for this? Have they performed it live? I want to know, because dang, that drop, all the production, like it feels very party, like dubstep, like something that would be playing at like a party or a club or something, which does very much feel like it kind of fits with it of like, don't look back, tomorrow will be better. For right now, let's just be young and carefree. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a good thing. Like maybe they should be more worried about this and they're kind of putting it off to later, like that'll somehow make it better, which usually it doesn't. I'm not saying necessarily we're making good decisions here, but it does feel like they're just overwhelmed by it. They're like, I don't know how to fix this problem, so might as well just have some fun for a while, because like they said, like it's going to be difficult, like it's going to be a struggle, so I'm gonna take a moment to just like have fun and not worry about it, because I'm gonna have to deal with it, but it doesn't have to be right now. And like it all pulls out. Xian's voice there. Gosh, they all sound so good on this album, but like in the contrast to this very like unfeeling, detached vocal that they've been doing in some of their songs, and then they're just like shifting so much into these very like emotive, but it feels like they're just flipping in between these two sides so much. It just shows like the kind of diversity that they can have in like the emotion and narrative they can put into their voices. It's just wild to me that they go through these like really like delicate, very emotive sounding voices where it's like almost heartbreaking with the kind of sound that they're getting, and then these very like empty, detached, robotic sounding vocals.
좁은 골목 어디쯤에 있어도 들숨에 스며드는 향기 일렁일렁일렁 시들어도 다시금 예쁘게 피는 꽃처럼 이내 털고 일어나 널 알기에 bright tomorrow will be bright because we are young 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 don't mind 뒤돌아보지 마 because we are young.
This drop is intense. Like, I feel like I should have like light sticks or something. I feel like my video isn't wild enough to fit this music. This is wild. I would not have expected that kind of drop in a dreamcatcher song.
아픈 기억들은 버려둬요 먼지처럼 쉽지만은 않을 거라.
It's an ominous sound.
I know 곁에 있다는 걸 알아줘요. I know you're mine.
Gosh, the way that they're shifting so much from like these very quiet moments, it's just this huge explosion of sound. This song at a concert is gonna be amazing. Like the energy of this song live will be crazy in a completely different way from other Dreamcatcher songs that are like really hype energy. This is gonna be different. I'm gonna need a light stick if I'm gonna see this one live because I need more lights going on. Like, I feel like I'm too subdued and put together for this song.
알아요 그렇지만 I know 곁에 있다는 걸 알아줘요. I know you're mine.
Oh, beautiful, Xian.
Because we are young. Because we are young.
Ooh, Handak had a little something to her voice there. Oh, I love Gayen bringing it down there at the end with like the lower range. That song surprised me. Out of all of them, that song is the one where I'm like, hang on a second, this is Dreamcatcher. Wow. And I feel like it is that feeling of like, let's just put it off and forget about it and it'll be a struggle, and I know that, but it doesn't have to be right now. And I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing if we're making healthy decisions. And it also feels like because we are young, like it could be, oh, we can get another try at this, we have time because we're young. But it could also be a like, I can shrug off my feelings because I'm young and I don't have to worry about it. Like, it's almost like an excuse of like, oh, I shouldn't have to make these decisions, I don't want to make these decisions, I'm young, so it doesn't matter, right? Like, you can kind of have this like flippant energy sometimes to younger people in general, but also like younger performers where like they don't really understand the gravity of their actions and what they're saying and what those ramifications of those things can be in their life, because it's really hard to think forward. And I say that as somebody who is young. Right? Like, I have people who say like, what is your like 10-year plan from now? And I'm like, I don't know. 10 years ago, I was 15. I'm a very different person. I cannot conceptualize what 10 years in the future looks like for me. I haven't lived long enough to be able to come up with a long-term plan like that. When you say like, what does the rest of your life look like? I'm like, I don't know. The only lifetime I've lived is the 25 years I've been here. So I don't know. And I feel like that is may also be something they're kind of playing with. Like there's this cheeky like double-sidedness to it of saying like we're young so we can put it off, we can forget about it. There's always going to be a tomorrow for me to figure it out, so I'm just going to forget about it and do something fun and leave it for later. Because when you're young, there is a later. There's always the rest of your life when you're a young person, when you're just starting out in your adult career and you're like allowed to make mistakes and get away with things. So I feel like it kind of plays off of that a little bit too. Not how I was expecting this album to end. I definitely feel like that album left me with more questions than answers, because I had a bunch after OOTD and all of the kind of concept that they're going with this comeback, and now I feel like I just have more questions, and I have like some philosophical musings, and I don't really know where the critique ends and Dreamcatcher begins. Like I have so many ideas swirling around in my head of like what this album was and what they were trying to communicate, because there's so many ideas kind of thrown into it, and I feel like that was probably on purpose. One, because they're starting into this kind of different era, because they're leaving behind the previous stories and concepts that they were playing with and going into a new one. I feel like they're also kind of, I don't know, upgrading as a group, because again, in the last era with all of the apocalypse stuff, they got a ton more popularity than they did before. They've shifted into a whole different level of their career. So I feel like they did need to make this dramatic step in that so that they could firmly leave that and try some new things. But there's so many sounds on this, there's so many concepts and ideas, and I feel like you can kind of see some of the, I think like the struggle they're trying to communicate of trying to fit into the mold of being a performer and meeting expectations of fans and the industry and other people who you have to work with, and also what they want to be as performers, because there's always going to be some amount of give and take with that. You always have to make some kind of accommodations for others with any kind of creative project. There's always things that you just have to meet people halfway on, and it's not just the other members of your group, it's like the industry in general. There's just going to be things that you just don't get a chance to do, or that you have to alternate to alter to fit with what is like actually possible and what people are going to be willing to let you do, regardless of whether or not you're a K-pop star or any other kind of performer. So it feels like they're trying to play around with that idea of like, what does it mean to be a performer? Not necessarily like an idol. I feel like this transcends that into lots of other things, but what does it mean to be a performer, where you have a certain image that either you want to communicate, like there's like the person you want to be as a performer, there's the person the people around you want you to be, there's the people in the company who want you to be a certain person, there's your fans who see you as a certain person. Like there's all of these different masks and like opinions about who that person is and who you should be and what you agree with, right? Like I'm sure that there are people at their company that they trust and whose opinion they value. How much do you meet their ideas and how much do you stick to what feels good for you? And like with their fans, us as fans have our own ideas, and I feel like this album is a great example, because I've been hearing that there's some debate, to put it lightly, in the fandom about this comeback and the songs in it. How much do you accommodate for what your fans want or expect from you, and how much do you divert into your own creative interests, right? Like I feel like they're really playing with that idea and playing it off in this way of kind of this artificial like AI version of Dreamcatcher and who they are, like again the villains of this, and who that kind of creation is in this very controlled artificial setting, with like parts of the actual Dreamcatcher kind of leaking through. I have so many ideas, so many thoughts. None of them I feel like are fully coming together. I'm gonna have to listen to this album a whole heck of a lot more, and I probably will be, because I feel like I need to listen to it from front to back. I knew I was gonna like this album. I don't think there's any song in it that I don't enjoy, which I was, from the way that people have been talking about it, I felt like maybe I was gonna be on the fence about some of it, but I thought it was great. I think Rising is probably my favorite. There's something about that song that I'm just like, dang, that song got me. It made my brain just malfunction. So I hope you enjoyed listening to that along with me. You can click this playlist to go and see my previous reactions, or you can subscribe so you miss next time I post a Dreamcatcher reaction, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.